All right, so I got to thinking, and you know what? I thought to myself, I should make another video on some recommended reading because, some of this reading is stuff that's, it's good to have for book sense, but my grandfather used to say that common sense is not a flower that blooms in every garden. And I think that coming up, there were so many different things that, we were taught that didn't necessarily hold true, or they kind of sort of didn't make sense, or they were true, but they weren't the best practice. They weren't the best way to live your life. And um, growing up, my grandfather, he was this amazing storyteller. Oh my God. I mean, it didn't matter who he met, like, everyone loved to hear him tell his stories, and they were riveting. I wish I had that same ability that he had to be able to orate and to focus his thoughts so that they came out so eloquently like he did. I do not. And although the words out of my mouth don't always come out the way that I wish that they would, the thoughts that are in them are that are in here are, I feel very powerful. I feel like the mind that I have now and the mind that I had even just 3 years ago is very different. And one of the things that made the difference was I started picking up some really good books. I ran into a friend um, from high school, and they were always one of those people who was just a social butterfly, had this amazing mind, and they started to really open me up to a new way of thinking, mentally, spiritually, and I'm so thankful for them. It felt almost like a sort of deliverance, and I feel like in life, a lot of the fears that we have are from the unknown, and I obviously don't know everything, don't even want to. I just want to like try to learn it. I want to try to learn as much as I can. There's always something more to learn. There's always someone who is just who has a jewel that's so profound. And a lot of times we're lucky enough that people put these jewels in books. And I figure I'd run through some of the books that have helped me and that I'm very sure can help you. Some of these books uh, you may think are more tailored towards someone who's, of African American descent, but the reality is that there are some truths in this book that will help anyone and that will make other people more relatable. And I'll go through the whole list of the ones that I've went through so far, and the ones that I feel like hold like a special meaning or something like that to me personally. I'll try to explain it a little bit. Okay, so Character Building by Booker T. Washington. It's an amazing book. Some people feel like Booker T. Washington was one of those people who was blindsided or who only saw people of color in one light when in reality it was not true. The man was extremely um, I mean, he was just mentally, he was here. And there was so many things that are going on now that he predicted and that he talks about in the book. And the book is actually a collection of his dissertations that he gave while he was a teacher at Tuscaloosa University to his students. So um, hopefully you can get through it. It's very fast. You can find a lot of these books, if not as free audiobooks on LibriVox, as free audiobooks right here on YouTube. So you can just turn them on, listen to them when you're in your car, plug into the AUX cord. But this book, it had a lot of jewels in it about how to approach life, how to approach your career, how to organize as a people, and how we look at one another, how we looked upon one another, and the great things that we can all achieve by working together. The Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum. And that last name may sound familiar to you because He also was one of the founders of Barnum and Bailey, the circus that travels the world. The Life of Buddha. The Life of Buddha, I felt, was an amazing book because me growing up in the South with the fire and brimstone type of approach that they took to religion, and and bringing us up in Christianity under that type of approach. The Life of Buddha was actually very helpful to me to understand, and also you can practice Buddha's teachings and be a Christian. So, and Buddha was a real person. He wasn't, someone that people say may or may not have walked the earth. He was actually a very real person, and there are some strong similarities in his origin story to that of Christ. The Power of Concentration, an amazing book, and it's really helpful for someone like me who doesn't have the best attention span, but to explain to you how to strengthen your mind, exactly how important concentration is, and to be able to culminate it when it's needed, so you can meet your goals. Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver. Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver is one of those books that I feel every young man should read. There are some things in this book that are just powerful and amazing and absolutely terrible at the same time. And it really shows this man's growth and some of the almost unforgivable mistakes that he made, and how he was still able to go on and do such great things in life. It teaches a lot about duality and looking inward. I'm going to skip ahead to Seeds of Time by Bobby Seale. Uh, Bobby Seale's book, Seeds of Time, is an amazing book. It actually explains about the Black Panther Party and Bobby Seale, his life. Bobby Seale was a co-founder of the Black Panther Party, him and Huey P. Newton. And there are so many things about this movement that we are taught that just simply are not true, historically are inaccurate. And when you read the book, you get a much better understanding of what was happening, the things that that led them to forming this group that was so helpful, not only to the black community, but to the white community, to the Asian community, to the United States public. They even started the WIC program. They started after school programs so children could get food and could get medicine and shots. And if you from an area that's not the richest area like I am, and you hear about those guys who may be doing things that don't make sense in the street, that are harmful to the community, and then turn around and buying backpacks for school and all this good stuff. They didn't get those things from Nino Brown. They actually got those from the Black Panther Party. The government's taken a lot of cues from the Black Panther Party. And in that book, the last one that I read was Asada. And this book is by Asada Shakur. It is an amazing book. She's actually in exile in Cuba still to this day, and she was one of the members of the Black Panther Party. Women have played an incredible role in the revolutionary movements of of black people and colored people in the United States. And this book, I felt, was just such a great read. The things that she went through, even as a male, I can relate to those things. Another book was The Alchemist. The Alchemist is an amazing book. If you ever get a chance to purchase it, then do it. If you buy the book, if you get it on audio book, but get The Alchemist. It has a lot of great narratives, a lot of stories that we all can relate to, and it teaches you not only to push, to go further, but to continue pushing, and that the universe will speak back, and to how to listen to that inner voice, whether it's God or the universe, whatever you believe it is, but we all have one. And it teaches you how to be the best you, and how to not give up, and how to operate in such a way that the things that you want will come to you from sheer will and from a destiny that you create as you go. The Five Love Languages. The Five Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. Amazing book. He actually has a series of books. I've read a couple of them. He has the Five Love Languages for singles. He has the Five Love Languages for people who have been divorced. But what it does is it talks about how everybody has like this different language that they respond best to. And I can't remember all of them off the top of my head right now, but some people's love language is gift giving. If you remember them on their birthday, you know someone that you're close to, and birthday gifts are just a really important to them, even if it's something small, doesn't really matter the dollar amount. Then gift giving is their love language. Some people's love language is, physical touch. Some people's love language is quality time. Uh, so Dr. Gary Chapman, The Five Love Languages. It's a really thin book. It's a great read, and it's very helpful in business and in social circumstances, as well as your relationships, obviously. But it helps you to understand the people around you and to be able to make a meaningful impact with them so that, you're speaking their language. It's very important that if you take an interest in someone, to speak their language. There's this, I think, parable in the Bible that says, like, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. I think that this book takes it a step further. It shows that if you actually love someone, then you'll take the time to speak their language, to learn what language they're receptive to, so that your relationship can be, can operate at its maximum peak. And it also talks about forgiveness. And forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself, And forgiveness is not a one-time thing. It is a constant commitment. It's a promise that you make to make a constant commitment to, look over that thing that was harmful or hurtful so that you can progress. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because everybody else was reading it, and it was pretty helpful. It was one of those books that isn't super specific on how to get rich, but it's general enough that it sets the ideas in your head on what is rich thinking, what is poor thinking. And the cool thing about this book is it doesn't look down on the poor dad, and it doesn't, place the rich dad over the poor dad, or, place rich people in a bad light or poor people in a bad light. It shows both sides and how both groups of people think, and the benefits to each, and how knowing both sides was actually afforded the author of the book the ability to live a more balanced life, because it's all about balance. The Communist Manifesto. I needed to read that book because they talked about communism so much in one of the other books that I read. I'm a big history buff, and I wanted to make sure that I had a actual understanding of, like, what is this thing when they're saying, oh, these commies this or that, and and have a better understanding of proletarians, and a better understanding of all of the different governments, how they've worked and how they failed, and what were their, what was the major downfalls, and what brought about a movement such as communism. Narrative of a Slave. This is a book by Frederick Douglass that was extremely insightful. It gave a much better picture of what slavery was like, and especially by someone who pulled themselves up from slavery and was able to have the attention of someone who had the highest position in the entire land, which was President Abraham Lincoln, whom he had a good relationship. And Frederick Douglass was an amazing abolitionist. The 48 Laws of Power. If you are going to work in business, you need to read the 48 Laws of Power. You also need to read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Those two books are definitely for anyone who's going to be working in a business setting, or I guess go to the military, and then you're actually also going to be in a war that would be helpful. Up from Slavery from Booker T. Washington, also a great book. It gave me a much better understanding of not only what slavery was like here in the United States, but also in the islands, and and how Reconstruction worked. Um, the Soul of Black Folks by W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois, when you read the book, you get the feeling that the brother was kind of arrogant, but he knew what he was talking about. Within this book, if you don't read the whole book, there's one story at the end that's called, I think, the story of the two Johns. It was about two guys named John. Um, Reading that story is extremely helpful. I'm not even going to tell you what it's about because I don't want to spoil it. These books, they were all great, but um, if you get the chance to sit down and go through any of these books, I hope that you find them as helpful as I did. Thank you.